fights are back this Saturday. UFC 300 was 2 weeks ago. It feels like it was 6 months ago. It is nice to get back into a routine and break down some fights. UFC Vegas 91 isn't a very good card, but it is still a card. And a Saturday with fights is better than a Saturday without fights. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to give you my bets for UFC Vegas 91. But before I do, let me give you $50. The only thing you need to do is go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our partners, make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. It's affiliate marketing. So you're going to go to wewantpicks.com/bets. You're going to use the link. Once you make your account, make a deposit, I am going to get paid for that. And then I'm going to slice off some of that money and give it right back to you, because without you, we don't have any of this. wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit. We send you $50 as a thank you. You can use that money on anything you want, but we ask that you use it for premium membership. Premium membership is only $10 for an entire month. An entire month worth of fight cards. You're going to get tools, insight, picks, bets, and more. One of those tools is the line movement tracker. This is going to give you opening odds, current odds, win probability, and line movement for every fighter on every card. This week, my safety parlay took a little while. I didn't put it up till yesterday. And people kept saying, what's taking so long? What's taking so long? And I was monitoring line movement on a specific fighter. It was heading in the right direction. And it finally peaked. It got to where I didn't think I was going to get any more value out of it. So then I placed my bet. And that's what the line movement tracker is for. You can monitor it to follow the movement, wait to place a bet, or place it immediately before a line goes too far. You're also going to get the detailed data, metrics, and analytics. This is 38 columns of information. And you can use this for prop bets specifically. You can use it for anything that you want. You're going to get biometrics, striking stats, grappling stats, all the information you could ever need. I like to use it for prop bets. I like to look at it and say, how many takedowns is this person landing? What's their opponent's takedown defense? What's the significant strikes look like? And then I take that information, I bring it over to Prize Picks, I bring it to Underdog, I even take it to Bet Online, where they have this significant strike in the takedown prop bets, and we clean up. Everything I just mentioned, plus all the picks, the bets, everything else that I don't even have time to walk through is only $10 for an entire month. No weird tiered packages. It's not per event, for an entire month. 4 events. Only $10. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. Before I go through my actual bets, let's talk about some generalizations here. Let's talk about some confident favorites and some solid underdogs. This is a weird card. I do feel like it's going to go one of two directions. I don't think we're going to have a mixed bag of a few good dogs and some favorites. I think we're going full favorite or full dog. So let's look at the favorites. Right off the rip, I love Jonathan Pierce in this matchup. And I fully get that David Onama is a very good striker. David Onama is a bit of a dog at times. David Onama is Jacob's lock of the week. I still think Jonathan Pierce runs through David Onama. And it's literally the boring wet blanket wrestling. That's it. Of course he's not the better striker. Of course he's not. But he is going to wrestle non-stop. And I think that's going to be hard for David. I don't think David's going to be able to find a rhythm. He's not going to be able to let his hands go when he's constantly defending takedowns, constantly trying to stand back up. As long as Jonathan Pierce doesn't do some nonsense like he did in his last fight, he will be totally fine here. Then we have Jonathan Deniz. I trust the process. I think he's going to win this fight. I trust what the UFC is doing. Here's a prospect. Here's a guy that you can beat. Go ahead, put on a show so that we can promote you. It's a division where they need a little bit of oomph. It's a division where they want some excitement. So I think we're totally fine here with Jonathan Deniz at minus 284. You're going to get even better odds if you go to Bet Openly. If you don't know what Bet Openly is, it's not a sports book. It's not you versus them. It's you versus other people. It's person versus person. So it's my money and your money, and if I win, I take yours, you win, you take mine. And because that's what it is, and because their business model isn't to take money and to win money from people, their business model is to run transactions and then take 1% of the fees, you get better odds. Ketlin Souza, minus 375. I do fully recognize that Marnik Man is a dog. She's tough as shit. She's not going to give up. She's going to come forward like a little cannonball and try to win this fight. I also recognize that when she's on bottom, she can't get back up. And I think Ketlin Souza is just going to be bigger, push her around, have some success striking, get her to the ground, hang out on top. I think it's just going to be a long, full 3-round fight of some sloppy nonsense. Marnik Man might win a round, but I think Ketlin Souza is just going to win this fight outright. And then Ivana Petrovic at minus 440. Here's the reality. Early in this fight, Ivana's going to be taken down. Na Liang's going to look good early. And then Na Liang is going to do what she does, which is somehow lose. She will figure out a way to lose this fight. Me saying Ivana Petrovic is one of my more confident favorites is not because of all of Ivana Petrovic's skills. She does have some skills. It's mostly because Na Liang finds ways to lose. She will have early success. She will fade. She only knows how to wrestle. She doesn't know how to grapple. She doesn't know how to strike. She only knows how to wrestle. Ivana Petrovic should absolutely win this fight. And we're talking about some underdogs. I personally don't think this is going to be an underdog heavy card. I do think a lot of these favorites are going to show up. But if we're looking at some underdogs here, obviously we got to talk about the co-main event. I'm going to compare it to a heavyweight fight. It is obviously not a heavyweight fight, but they're going to fight like heavy. It's two big guys. Neither one of them are particularly fast, and both of them have good power. That's what this is. I don't see a lot of wrestling. I don't see a lot of grappling. I just see some big leather getting thrown in both directions. Then if we get past, a round and a half or so, then we might see some sloppy cage control. But up until then, it's basically a heavyweight fight, and those are all 50-50. Bogdan Guskov certainly has the power to knock out Ryan Spann, and you got to look at him as a dog in that regard. Gabriel Benitez, plus 194. Here's the reality of the situation. He looked horrible in his last fight. He wasn't stringing together combinations. He was throwing one punch at a time. He finally looked like his age, slow, wasn't really doing the things that you would expect from an actual veteran, that you would expect from a guy that has some pretty high-level kickboxing. But with that being said, he is still a talented guy, and that last fight, the one that he just lost against Jim Miller, was after a long layoff. Once you factor in the layoff, well, maybe he had some cobwebs to dust off. Maybe he needed to find his rhythm, and he just wasn't able to do it in that fight, but now he's back in the cage. He got that out of his system, and now this fight he might show up. He's fighting a 24-year-old that makes mistakes, a 24-year-old that doesn't have the best fight IQ. Gabriel Benitez could certainly show up, use the veteran savvy, hopefully look better than he did in his last fight, and potentially win this fight. Then Tim Means. Listen, Tim Means is 40 years old. I do think Uros Medic wins this fight. But Tim Means has that awkward karate-style striking, and he can work in some takedowns. Uros Medic is a pure striker. He was just completely out-wrestled in his last fight. Obviously, the type of takedowns matter. Like, Tim Means isn't shooting beautiful doubles up the middle. But Tim Means can do that awkward, weirdo, karate-style stance-switching striking, and then squeeze in a takedown or two and potentially beat Uros Medic. Uros Medic is all finishes. 9 wins, 9 finishes. And all of a sudden, we're in the second round. It's a little later. He might not know what to do. And Tim Means is a dog. He's 40. He's not going to be the better striker. He's going to be slower. He's going to be chinnier. And if he can't get his wrestling going, he's not going to have a backup plan. But I do think dog-wise, if you have to look at some dogs, he makes a little bit of sense. And then Alex Perez in the main event. Here's the thing. I do think he loses. Just like I think Tim Means loses, just like I think Gabriel loses, just like I think Bogdan loses. But we're talking about underdogs that can win their fights. And not like, of course they can win. It's a fist fight. No, underdogs that have a clear path that could have some decent value there. Alex Perez is one of those guys. He's another one. He didn't win his last fight. He wasn't throwing as much striking as he should have been. He wasn't letting his hands go. If he let his hands go, he might have won that fight. He fought a dominant wrestler, and he did a very good job creating scrambles, defending a good amount of those takedowns, but he wasn't making his opponent pay off those entries. He wasn't making his opponent suffer after shooting a bad takedown. So he didn't win that fight, but he also was coming off a 2-year layoff himself. He is stepping up on short-ish notice. It is a main event spot. But the reason I think Alex Perez is a decent underdog here is A, we saw what a dog he can be in his last fight, and B, his opponent was just knocked out. Nicolau was just knocked out in his last fight. And we've seen this before. We've seen very good technical strikers. We've seen very good fighters get finished, and then it completely changes who they are. They're too afraid to engage. They're too afraid to let their hands go. They're worried that they're going to get knocked out again. I don't necessarily know if that's the case. We don't know yet. We haven't seen Mateusz fight since that knockout loss. But once we factor in the fact that Alex Perez is a veteran, he's got very good leg kicks, the way he finishes his exchanges, he's got good takedown defense, all of a sudden Alex Perez isn't the worst underdog on this card. Let's take a look at my actual bets. I've got 3.25 units going here. One of those bets is the safety parlay. You're going to have to unlock premium to get access to that. But we do have some other bets here. I got 3 bets that I shared with you 2 weeks ago. I shared them again last week, and I'm going to share them again here. We got Karine Silva plus 118. She's now minus 150 something. We absolutely dominated that line movement there. I think Karine Silva can win this fight. She is fighting Ariane Lipski. Ariane Lipski's had the glow up of a century. 3 wins in a row. She just beat a very good prospect in Casey O'Neill. But Karine Silva just has a way of getting these fights to the ground and finishing them. Ariane Lipski has been finished before. She has not been submitted, but she's been finished before. I think Karine Silva can get this to the ground, as she figures out how to do in almost every single fight, and pull off that submission or work a TKO. I do think Karine Silva wins this fight. With all of that being said, I got Karine Silva at plus 118. All of a sudden, she's minus 150, minus 160. I don't trust her at those price points. At this price point, it made sense. The one thing that worries me is Ariane Lipski has looked good in her last 2 fights. Or 3 fights. Ariane Lipski has defended like 20-something takedowns in the last couple of fights. Ariane Lipski is somehow putting things together and looking pretty good. I do think Karine Silva wins. I am very glad I got her at plus money. And if you're a premium member, you saw that bet a few weeks ago. If you watch our content, you saw that bet a few weeks ago. If you missed the boat, I don't know if I would still jump on the Karine Silva train in the minus 140, 50, 60. I don't know if she's necessarily worth that. And it's has a lot to do with Ariane Lipski's little glow up that she's been having lately. And then Jonathan Pierce. I mentioned all of this a few minutes ago on the previous slide. I think Jonathan Pierce runs through David Onama. I got him at minus 140. He is now minus 170. Beat a little bit of the movement there. If he gets to minus 200, I don't necessarily know what to do with that, because I do think Jonathan Pierce has the wrestling chops. I think he will come forward. He will get this fight to the ground over and over and over again. That is what he does. Doesn't have the best control in the world. Not a great finisher, even though he does have a ton of finishes. He's only been to a decision 3 times. But when I say not a great finisher, he's not like a Charles Oliveira, right? Charles Oliveira, you're on the ground with him and you're like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. Jonathan Pierce finds the finishes. They just appear out of thin air. But David Onama is tough. David Onama is a veteran. David Onama should be able to avoid getting submitted or getting finished on the ground, but I don't think he avoids all the takedowns. I think Jonathan Pierce has success wrestling, gets the fight to the ground. I don't necessarily think he's going to snatch something up and finish this fight early, but I do think we're going to get the takedowns out of him and he's going to win this fight. McCall Figlak. The only thing worrying me about McCall Figlak is the fact that he's coming off a 2-year layoff. Outside of that 2-year layoff, he should beat Austin Hubbard. He's going to be the much better striker. He should have very good takedown defense, and we should be good. And you're going to look at his fight, his last fight. He was taken down a gazillion times. But that was a very different wrestler. That was a very different person than what we have here. For us, Ziam used trips and throws and kept that distance nice and close. That's not what Austin Hubbard is going to do. If Austin Hubbard tries to get this to the ground, he's going to shoot some takedowns, and that's where McCall can defend that. Either way, McCall Figlak is the better striker and should have good enough takedown defense to keep this standing. I got him at minus 125. That line has also moved. I did just add this bet, and people hated it. I threw this bet up, and the reactions I got to this were not pleasant. Ryan Spann versus Bogdan Guskov, the co-main event, over 1.5 rounds. Listen, I get it. It's plus 215. It's not supposed to hit. That's what plus money means. Plus money means that bet is not supposed to hit. Minus means it's supposed to. Plus means it's supposed to lose. I get it. And I spent a few minutes talking about how this is basically a heavyweight fight. But the reality is we could end up in a situation where nobody gets knocked out early and then it's sloppy. Ryan Spann has tons of cardio. We know he can fight 15 full minutes, but he's not a crazy high volume guy. He will be there. If you engage, he'll engage. If you don't engage, he won't engage. So if Bogdan Guskov comes out early, throws some heat, doesn't have that knockout, doesn't have that early success, then he might turn into a cage wrestler, holding him against the cage, trying to get takedowns. I only put a quarter of a unit on. A unit for me is $100. I put $25 on it. Let's all relax. 2.5 months of premium membership I put on it. The reality is, I understand. This could be a very quick, very early knockout. But at plus 215 for $25, I think there is a chance that this fight goes a little bit longer. I'm not convinced this is going to be an early, quick knockout. Then Jonathan Deniz and James Yontop. 2 UFC debut guys. 2 early in their career guys that should win but are risky. We have seen many times over that these UFC debuts don't necessarily show up or show out. Jonathan Deniz is set up for success. He's supposed to knock out Austin Lane. That's why he's here. That's why they gave him Austin Lane. Here's a giant heavyweight that you can knock out, that we can say he just knocked out a big heavyweight, a former NFL player. That's why that's the matchup. And then James Yontop has a last-minute switcheroo in an opponent. He's fighting a guy that is 6-6 in his last 12. He's fighting a guy that's not particularly dangerous and is stepping up on short notice. I think James Yontop wins that fight. I think Jonathan Deniz wins his fight, half a unit only at -152. And then we have the safety parlay. Safety parlay is a money line and a round line. And I got it at -133. Decent odds for that. And if you want to unlock the safety parlay and any other bets that might be placed after this video, WeWantPicks.com. Click become a member. It's freaking $10. It's $10 for an entire month. Next week's UFC 301. You're going to get 4 events for that $10. Let's take a quick peek at Jacob's bets. All of Jacob's bets are premium. I give you a couple in this video to tease you, to push you a little bit over the edge there. But all of Jacob's bets are in premium. So you can unlock every single one of his bets on the website. David Onama is his underdog lock of the week. I am squarely on the other side. I literally bet money on the other side. We are heads up. We are 2 different human beings that read fights differently and have different opinions. We are not one. And this is very evident in this fight. And then he has Na Liang. This is a flyer. He barely has any money on this. But Na Liang to win in the first round plus 1,100. Honestly, that's not crazy. If Na Liang wins, it will be in the first round. I don't think she wins, but if she somehow pulls it off, that's how she would do it in the first round. She's going to get some takedowns early, and if she could somehow find a finish, good for her. Most of her fights are wins by finish, but they were against sort of unproven tomato cans on the other side of the world. You can unlock the rest of his bets at WeWantPicks.com. Just click Become a Member at the top. And we'll take a quick look at Bet Openly. I mentioned earlier, you're going to get better odds every single time. Without question, better odds every single time. And that's because it is peer-to-peer, person-to-person betting. Every time Jacob and I have an argument, we'll bet with Bet Openly. Anytime somebody tagged me in Discord before, and it's actually Dr. Y, the guy that gave us the BMF belt. So I'm about to drag you. I appreciate the support. You sent us a $1,000 belt and you're always super. I appreciate all of that. But he tagged me and he's like, Ronnie Yaya is going to dominate this fight. I said, all right, send me a Bet Openly for any amount of money you want. And he couldn't. He said a reason why he couldn't. I don't know if it's whatever. I don't need to get into his personal life. He said there was a reason why. Like, hey, I do this for us, so I can't. Had nothing to do with money. But very convenient that you couldn't place that bet. Either way, point is, it is the greatest way to settle an argument in the comment section. All you people constantly fighting each other in my comment sections. Then the next day when the fights are over, told you, idiot. Every time. Why don't you people just bet? Even if it's $10, why don't you just bet? Throw the Bet Openly link in the comments. Say, here you go. At whatever the hell your YouTube username is. Take the money. Let's bet right now. That's what Bet Openly is used for. If you want to take Jacob's actual money, he has his Lock of the Week bet up there. You can grab the other side on Jonathan Pierce. And then my anti-safety parlay. If you did that last week, you would have made some money. What the safety parlay does, or any parlay on Bet Openly, when you bet the other side, you just need the parlay to lose. So if my parlay is 6 fighters, if one fighter loses, you get all that money. You get paid, not me. WeWantPicks.com/BetOpenly. Or just go to BetOpenly.com. No affiliate link or anything. Just go to BetOpenly.com and check them out. This is the future of sports betting. Let me know your bets below, and good luck this weekend.